I think we better move on to the news.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. North and South America, and all the ships and clippers at sea. Let's go to press. Come on.
Game news.
First thing we have up in game news is
It's great to just hear you doing this.
Is it? Is it pretty good?
Yeah, I feel like I'm just listening to the podcast. This is great. I feel like I'm like re-listening to make sure the audio's good.
I will say this one thing. I will say that you pressing the right button at the right time and messing it up frequently, I would always, in the back of my mind, I was always like, amateur.
Yeah.
Now that I'm doing it, it's so fraught.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm so terrified that I'm going to press the wrong button.
Always.
And that when I press the wrong button, there's no way on this particular
going
deck
back
to stop it. It's going to play the whole thing out. But so far, so good. First bit of news is there are new board game mechanics on the Geek. Now, this is kind of in the weeds.
Big news.
But it's actually
No,
really
this is huge. This is a structural change to BGG.
and a good one. There was a little what do you call it, window dressing change to BGG that happened recently. But this is a significant change. For a long time now, the board game mechanic categories that the Geek has been using have been obviously ill-equipped to deal with the changes in the hobby.
Yeah, I think they were probably set a while ago and have not really adapted. And a lot of them seem to mean the same thing. Like, action, a lot of them are just like, well, those are basically the same thing.
Yeah, and frankly, we understand that when we talk about mechanics. Oftentimes, we just had a conversation last week, I think, about whether or not something is a tableau builder or not, and what makes it so or what makes it not.
Yep.
Luckily, two gentlemen, Jeff Engelstein and Isaac Shaley, wrote a book called Building Blocks of Tabletop Game Design.
That'd be a good place to start.
An encyclopedia of mechanisms. They call it mechanisms. The Geek calls it mechanics, which was nice. And the Geek is using their categories. I went through it earlier this week, looking at all the new little things. And each one of the mechanics, if you go to the browse menu, you can click on mechanics. You can look at all of them. You can click on any of them. And not only do they have a very simple but apt description of what that mechanic is, but they have little drawings to go with them to show you how that works. It's phenomenal.
That's great.
It's phenomenal. It's a really, really amazing resource. Moving on, let's talk about something else. Tilt 5. Tilt 5 is an alternate reality AR tabletop gaming simulator. Basically, the idea is you put on these glasses and you can see a 3D board right in front of you. Matt, what do you think about that?
I mean, it looks like technology that's not ready.
I think you're absolutely right.
I think it, holler at me in like 5 years, but for right now, well, here's my main problem with it. Something that expensive is going to have to appeal to people, to all gamers. And I probably won't like the board games designed for people who play this device.
Yeah, listen, a couple of years back, I've written for a couple of VR titles, VR games. And in doing so, I got to go to some great events. And one of those events, I played Oculus Catan. I played 3D Catan right in front of me. Mm-hmm. And it was really, really cool. But 5 minutes in, I'm playing Catan. So it really doesn't fit. Look, the end-all, be-all of this is if you are looking at spending your Kickstarter money well, I would not be the first in the door on any AR or VR related product. I would wait and see if it pans out, see what the adoption rate is, and see how that goes.
I mean, if there was a way to take existing software, like if you could take Tabletop Simulator and I could just buy 4 glasses and a green mat I put on my table, and we can play any game on Tabletop Simulator with that, that's interesting. I could see that being something I could potentially look at, but also the price has to be low because I could just play it for real. So it has to. So in a sense, like, why would I do that? I guess you'd want games made. I mean, like, you're thinking of like the Star Wars chess thing, whatever that's called.
Holo chess.
Yeah, like something like that, where there's like, but then I don't know. I'm having a hard time thinking of what I would be like. Oh, I'm buying that.
I mean, one of the whole reasons I got into playing board games in the first place is that I want to be hanging out with people in real life as opposed to just virtually and being face to face and hanging out. And
not having
time.
Any screens. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I still love that. I will say that this technology, when it comes to role playing games, I think is much more useful and much more helpful. A lot of people play via Skype, and to be able to have a 3D board that people can look at in from the comfort of their own home or something like that, that might have more appeal.
Yeah.
Next up, reviews of Tapestry have been pouring in. Everybody has been reviewing this game, and much more to say about that, except that the reviews seem to be about as mixed as our review was. There's a lot of people that
I think if you only listen to one review, I think our review will give you the gamut of all the other reviews. And I'm not trying to blow smoke. I'm just after having seen a lot of reviews, I feel like we kind of were covering a lot of the different reviews.
nailed it.
Yeah.
Things you may have missed from Gen Con. There's a game that we haven't really, I don't think we've talked about Parks, have we?
No.
Let's talk about Parks really quick, because for a niche for a market that is not exactly us,
This is on the lighter side, right?
It's a noteworthy game. Yeah, it's a very light game. It's a very light, very simple game. It is most closely allied with and compared to Tokaido.
Oh,
which, as you know, you put on a list yesterday.
Not something I enjoy playing.
Last week. That said, the artwork of this game is jaw-dropping.
Yeah.
I mean, better than Wingspan. I mean, if there was an award for best art in a game this year, I think it would snake Wingspan, because they're using actual art, actual drawings and paintings from a collection of paintings of the national parks of the United States of America.
No, they are beautiful cards.
And from everybody that's reviewed the game and has talked about it has said, look, it is a simple game. It's a light game that is gorgeous to look at, and it is lightly strategic. It doesn't have any luck in it. It doesn't have a ton of randomness in it. But I would say that for people that if you're a couple that likes to play games with other couples,
I mean, is this lighter than Splendor or Azul?
Yeah, I mean, is Tokaido lighter than those games? Yeah,
totally.
I think it is. I think this is a filler game that's quite beautiful. The theming is wonderful. It's a little bit like Wingspan in that sense, in that the theme is really, really evocative, really rich and beautiful, and the game mechanics mimic that to some degree. You're taking pictures of these wonderful parks, and you win by taking the best pictures. There's a little bit of resource management in it. But I would say that I think this is a fantastic couples game. If you have couples that get together for game night and you guys are stuck playing Trivial Pursuit and things like that, I think this is a fantastic game to maybe dip your toes, to have party gamers and super casual gamers dip their toes into something that's a little bit closer to Euro.
Yeah.
Matt, you wanted to say something, didn't you?
Oh, there's a couple of news items here. Yeah,
we'll put one of yours in, and then we'll keep going, and so on and so forth.
Great. Well, Satiereal Confluence, which has a ridiculously long rest of the title, which I'm not going to say, is a game that I have played once and really enjoyed.
It was good.
Really fun. This is a game of real-time trading in a sci-fi realm, and it's all about, you have a timer on, and you're wheeling and dealing, and you've got stuff to sell, and you have goods that people need, and the only way to get them is through you, and vice versa. And everybody sort of has an asymmetrical ware shop that they can hawk goods that other people need.
Now, when you say trading game, people can sometimes think Catan and all that sort of stuff, but we're really talking negotiation.
Right.
Game.
I need 2 yellow cubes. Somebody goes, I have 2 yellow cubes. Okay, what do you need? I need 1 pink. I don't have pink. Okay, and then
But guess what? He has pink, and he needs my yellow cubes, and we'll.
So you'll do it through him, and then I'll trade with you, and then we have 1 minute left. Like, come on, just make the deal. And then you're trying to basically build these. I don't know. I mean, the theme is a little pasted on, which is why I'm interested in this, because the news is that it's getting a new art package. Basically, it is not a beautiful game, not a huge important thing for me, Satiereal Confluence, but it's ugly.
The box is basic. The card stock is very, very thin.
There is no theme. When you're playing the game, I don't feel much of a theme.
I don't know if I totally
The theme is
that.
there in terms of because you have such highly asymmetrical alien powers, like
Yes.
crazy asymmetrical, game-breaking asymmetrical. But all of the theme is in your head and in the LARPing of the table. The artwork does not get you there, and the components don't get you there. So there is a new version coming out sometime in 2020 that is basically going to take this wonderful game that everybody who plays it, I think for the most part, really enjoys, and is going to make it up to snuff in terms of components and artwork.
It's wonderful. No pun included. We love No Pun Included. They had that as their game of the year last year.
And WizKids Games is bringing out, and WizKids.
They did the previous edition, didn't they?
Yeah. Did they?
I think.
Okay.
I think they did.
Well, there you go.
I'm not positive about that. Yeah. Listen, negotiation games are a weird animal. There are. I can name 3. I can name Traders of Genoa. I can name Chinatown, and I can name Satiereal Confluence. They're all, I guess, I'm the Boss is another one, but they're all very, very interesting games, and I love every single one of them.
Yeah.
But you have to be up for a game that is more LARPy than most board games.
And this game's heavy. This game's
Yes,
heavy.
it
This is
is.
not a simple game, but it has a very strange player count. How many players does it play to?
2 to 9.
That's crazy. 4 to 9. I guess there's a 2-player variant, but
Sure.
up to 9 players. No, I think we played it with 6 or 7, and I mean, that felt pretty good.
Yeah, it's
That's not 9. The only issue with 9 is just table space because it's a hog.
Oh yeah, it takes up tons and tons of space, and also there is, I think there is probably more chaos at the higher counts than there is at lower counts.
Yeah.
But your
Because
first,
you do have to sort of know, because you're making a deal with somebody, you kind of have to be aware that if they're the 2 brown cubes they want from you are going to be worth 50 points to them, and the 1 pink they're giving you is worth 4 to you. Like, you kind of have to be aware of how much you're helping, because it's a little hard to track who's winning in this game the more players you have.
Yeah, in Genoa, Traders of Genoa, there is no variable player power. Everybody's just trading. In Chinatown, everybody's just trading. This game is different because every race has a pretty radically different agenda and what they're after and the way they're set up, and they have different rules pertaining to the way their game and the flow of their game is going to go. So if I'm playing against 3 people, I can remember, okay, Matt, you're playing the bugs, and their deal is they need to conquer new planets, and to get new planets, I think green is the cube that they want the most. And this person, they're the technology people, and they're looking for the silver cubes. And remembering that when there's only a few players gives you a little bit of an anchor in terms of what's a good valuation and how to trade well with people. When it becomes 7, 8, 9 people, it's mass chaos. Now, it's kind of amazing mass chaos because in a negotiation game, if you've ever played Pit, it's basically like grown-up Pit. You're just yelling, I need a gray cube. I will do anything to get this gray cube. What do I got to do?
Right. I think Satiereal Confluence, is a great game in a small collection. As like if you play with a regular group and you're going to bring this out once a month or something, you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck. And the more you know the alien powers, the less chaotic it is. The more you can get a great meta going. It's definitely an exciting game.
Absolutely, yeah. And then if you don't have any negotiation games in your collection, I recommend you try one.
Yeah.
Don't just buy one necessarily, but definitely try one and see if that might be to your liking. Because guess what? As a change of pace, as something just a little bit different, but still scratches a lot of the same itches, it's pretty wonderful.
Yeah, and keep an eye out for Satiereal Confluence coming in 2020.
Next up, we have Dice and Ink. It is a roll and write anthology. It is a 200-page book of little roll and write games that were designed.
Solo game?
No, not entirely. There are many, many different ones actually in there. There are ones that are solo. There are ones that are 2-player. There are ones that are 4-player. All kinds of counts. I'll actually describe a couple of them. Lost at Sea. You're a solitaire player trying to survive being stranded on an island of trash. There's another one called Celestial Stories, which is a cooperative storytelling for 2 to 8 players where you're creating constellations. All of them roll and write games. This sounds phenomenal. I'm not really a huge roll and write guy. My favorite roll and write game is a game that almost nobody has played, unfortunately, on tour. I think is the only one that really sang to me. Welcome to we played. You own that, and Ganshon Clever.
Ganshon Clever I think is the most fun, but just because it's just a little math puzzle.
But if you like that, if you've played roll and write games and you're like, wow, you know what, I really dig these. Gosh, 200-page book with perforated pages so you can remove them and play all kinds of different games.
That's cool. Sounds like a lot of bang for your buck.
Yeah, I think it really is a phenomenal idea, and I'm glad they did it. Should we get to it? Yeah, let's get to it. Tom Lehman's been a busy bee.
Oh, I don't think I've been following this. What's going on?
Oh boy, Matt. I have not one, not two, but three things to announce for Tom Lehman.
Well, I know about the Res Arcana expansion. Is there?
That's one of them.
Okay.
Tom Lehman, in case you are under a rock or don't know, he was the designer of Race for the Galaxy,
the king of the engine builder,
game-changing game that really basically created a whole new genre, the engine builder. Went on to make many other games. We did a review of Res Arcana. Once again, you and I
we choose the contentious ones.
Yeah, where we don't quite agree, and I seem to be stuck in the negative, unfortunately. But but there's no doubt, and as I said in the review, I have the utmost respect for Tom Lehman and what he does. He has a game called Chiu Hung coming out. It is a 2-player game.
How do you spell that?
CHUHAN.
2 words.
Yes.
Okay.
It is a game of dynastic intrigue, it's called. And basically, it's a 2-player game where one person represents the state of Chu and the other one represents the state of Han. And you're facing off to gain control of the eastern part of China. You're going to use troops and historical figures. You have to outthink. It's a card game with tactical moves. It sounds like a departure for him. It sounds like it's a little bit different than the things that he has done. I don't know too much more about that, except that there's going to be a Kickstarter for it that is going to kick off November 1st.
Okay.
So by the time that comes out, you'll have a lot more to look at. But
he's sort of also the king of 2-player games, too. I mean, a lot of his games aren't exclusively 2 players, but that's, I think, how they're most enjoyed, especially, Race and Res Arcana.
Exactly. Yeah. I totally agree with that. Second game he has, a New Frontiers Starry Rifts.
Oh, good. I've been waiting for an expansion on that.
Yes. There's an expansion that is coming out quite soon. I think that he said that it fourth quarter 2019. It should be coming out.
It adds a 5th player. Okay, that's what it needed.
Yes.
That is exactly what the game needed.
Yes. It adds a 5th player. It adds 16 new homeworlds, 10 developments, 13 worlds.
Oh, never mind. It already had 5 players. Well, okay, never mind.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't add a player.
Yeah.
What it does add is, do you remember what Xeno worlds were from Race for the Galaxy?
Remind me.
The idea is that there are these worlds that you can get, but once you put them into your tableau, once you put them on your board, you can never remove them. They are stuck there.
Okay.
And if by the end of the game you do not have enough military to defeat that world, it's gonna.
Oh, you've started like a war there.
Yes.
And you have to finish it.
Which is really great because, as we all know in Race for the Galaxy or New Frontiers, military has been a pretty simple metric, right? Where you build your military up to a certain point.
It's just another resource, yeah.
Exactly. Now it's a little bit more than that. Now it's one of these things where you can get these worlds that can be very, very wealthy and very, very powerful for you, but there's a huge risk if you do not at some point get your military up to
keep them under
such
control.
and such a level. Exactly. Which I really liked in Race for the Galaxy. I thought it added a great dimension to the game, and I'm really happy to see it in New Frontiers.
I love New Frontiers. I mean, I love Race for the Galaxy, and this is my preferred way to play Race for the Galaxy. It just seems like different ways to play Race for the Galaxy, and this is the one I would choose over the others, just because I prefer a board game.
Yeah, I think for me, Race for the Galaxy and New Frontiers are both basically tied at number 1.
Yeah.
And Roll for the Galaxy is second place for me, but. I got to tell you, I enjoy all of them. And last but not least for Tom Lehman, we do have the Res Arcana expansion.
Very excited for that.
Lux et Tenebrae. And as Matt, I'm sure you know as a good Catholic boy, Lux et Tenebrae means light and darkness.
Light and darkness. Yeah.
Light and darkness in Latin. I did take a year of Latin, actually.
I took 4 years of Latin, and that was a giant waste of time, but I can read every menu when I go to Europe.
Reminus camus nos in praesentia sancta Dei.
Oh, jeez.
Okay. It adds a 5th player to Res Arcana. So if 4 is not enough for you, get that 5th player.
That's what I was thinking of as the 5th player expansion he had. Yeah.
That's the one. And it also adds a little element called scrolls. The idea being scrolls. When you have those initial magic items that are in the center and you choose one of those each turn. At the end of your turn, you choose
sure.
one of those items. There's going to be a new item that is going to create scrolls, and there'll be 8 scrolls that are available. You grab one of them, and they are just a big power boost that you can take at any point and put it back. Things like you can spend 1 gold and get 1 of each of the other resources.
Got it.
Things
And
like that.
new characters too, right? New wizards.
Yep.
Yeah, those are great.
Yeah, all the usual things you would expect from an
Yeah.
from an expansion. I'm talking. I'm
Yeah,
bringing
that
up
sort of
what's,
thing. Yeah,
what's
yeah.
in particular.
No, I'm
special.
I'm this is a game that I will always want to play. So I'm excited to get more.
Now hit us with your big news.
Last piece of news is we've had rumors of this for a while, but it officially has a name now, which I think is a hilarious name. Marco Polo 2. I'm Auftrag des Kahn. I don't know what that translates into. Something of the Kahn. Marco Polo, the Voyages of Marco Polo, was one of my very favorite board games of all time. And it is from Simone Luciani and Daniel Tascini, the designers of Barrage, which we talked about recently, and a lot of the greatest games ever made, including the one we're going to be talking about today and reviewing. Marco Polo 2 is Brass Birmingham to Marco Polo's Brass Lancashire. This is the game you know and love, but with a brand new map. And it is strangely a map of the same area, but new connections, new ways the routes go, all new player powers, which is the most exciting thing. And apparently, you can use all the components from this on either board.
That's
and
great.
Vice versa.
So very Hansa Teutonica sort of thing, where the second game was a board,
Yeah.
but you realized the moment you played it, just changing the board changes everything.
Well, and it's a standalone game, so you could just buy this one and have a whole new set of a fresh set of powers and components and everything you need. But now you can add all the powers together and play either board, or so you basically are getting a whole new game that you can play just with the game it comes with, or with the game you already have if you have Marco Polo. And Marco Polo is a 10 for me, one of my favorite games of all time.
No question about it.
To have a sequel to it. Especially, it's called Marco Polo 2, which is just, I don't know, something funny about it.
It's about time somebody started naming things that.
Yeah.
I think
we've never had a board game do that. Yeah. Marco Polo 2. Got it? Okay, let's move on.
Antica 2.
Antica 2. Yeah,
Antica
there
2.
you
That's
go.
the only one I could think of.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, one of the things about Marco Polo is the first time you play it, you look at the board and everything looks normal. But after you played it, you realize, wow, this is a really weird board.
Yeah.
That the east-west routes, you have to go almost the
Super
entire
inefficient.
way across the board before you can switch routes.
Yeah.
Which is a very, very interesting thing. So to change that board, I think even in a subtle way, is going to make huge, huge changes to the way the game plays. I'm really looking forward to it. Couple last things. Clue.
Sorry.
Sure.
They added one thing in
Uh-oh.
that's going to change the game.
Uh-oh.
So you now have to travel to cities to get contracts. Now, one
Yes.
issue that I always sort of had with Marco Polo is you could not play Marco Polo and win Marco Polo. You could just sit in the starting position and fulfill contracts and potentially do okay.
Have you ever seen Dimitri move a pawn on the board in Marco Polo?
Yeah, so the contract.
I think he only takes
the
the
contract game is so strong, and with expansion, it's even stronger because you have more ways of getting things to fulfill those contracts without ever moving.
Well, moving around Venice,
exactly,
which is
yeah.
still moving, but
Yeah.
but it's different. Yes.
So now I don't know what it means, but you're gonna have to travel to cities to get contracts, so you can't just sit in Venice anymore. Which is what it's. I think with the expansion, a lot of people have realized, that's a lot of work to move around the map. I'm just not gonna do that.
How are these guys so good? Like we didn't like. I didn't even read a lot of posts where people were saying that this was.
Yeah, people
was
say it. Yeah,
well, a little bit, but it's one of those things that they're.
We've noticed it in our games. We were like, wait
Sure.
a minute, you could win by not playing the game.
I'm not sure you can win, but you could do what you could do really well. Listen, in fierce competition, you got to do a little bit of mix of both.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. Anyway, super excited. Go ahead.
Awesome. Clue, formerly Cluedo, is getting a new movie.
Oh, okay, that's fun. Sure.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Yeah.
The Hook being the first
problem
movie
being
with
is
like
that-
8 different endings.
3 endings.
Three,
yeah,
that's it?
and
Okay.
they're only 3, but they're fantastic.
Yeah.
They're absolutely fantastic.
I remember
Absolutely.
going to a movie theater and you didn't know which one you were going to get.
I love that movie. It's not a great movie,
That's
but
pretty
I
damn good.
absolutely really love it.
pretty
It's
damn good.
so much fun. Tim Curry as the
Yeah.
butler, Michael McKean. It's a great movie if you ever saw it. So I was like, wow, you know what? It's probably the best board game movie.
Oh, easily.
And they're remaking it.
Yeah.
And I was a little sad about that. I'm like, why remake the only one that actually turned out well? Until I found out who is doing it. Ryan Reynolds is going to star in it. Jason Bateman is going to star and direct it.
Oh, that's fun.
Right? And he just won an Emmy for directing Ozark.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's going to be written by Reese and Wernick.
Oh, okay, great.
Who wrote the Deadpool movies.
Yeah.
So, boy, oh boy, man.
Right, that's a good team.
That is loaded for bear.
Yeah, that's fun. Big, violent comedy, murder. That's. I mean, look, I pitch movies.
Do you want a second take on that one?
No,
that was really good.
A big, violent murder comedy.
Murder comedy.
Yeah.
I love it.
They can have that one for free.
And lastly, one last thing we'll just say is that our own Trey Alsop, his latest game installation is the subject of a podcast episode, and we want to tell you about that. Anchor.fm's Conversations at the Washington Library is a podcast. It is something that exists, and they're going to talk everything Situation Room Washington's Cabinet. It's the new thing that Trey has done. It's going to be basically Hamilton the LARP.
Yeah.
And really check it out. It's a great interview. It sort of delves into Trey the designer a little bit more than we get time to do here, and you should absolutely check it out.
I personally am definitely going to check that out.
Oh, that's awesome. That's it for that.